All right, greetings and welcome to Pop's Collection, where we dissect and reflect on a movie or TV show from my Pop's Collection. I'm Ron Tweedy. Join me as Pops, and today we're going to be talking about Batman Begins.
Yeah, I just have one question. Are we going to have to talk like this the whole time?
We are not.
Good. Welcome, everybody. So glad you're with us today. If we were doing a show about favorite Batmans, I'm going to have to say that not my favorite, this particular Batman, but good director.
Yeah, great director.
I think. Yeah, Christopher Nolan. Yeah. He's more known for like his historical stuff, right? Would you say?
Not necessarily. I mean, the thing that I knew him from before this was Inception, and he's done a couple other things.
But, well, he did Dunkirk. I know that.
Yes, yeah, he did. But that was way later than this movie.
That's true. That is true.
So yeah, just kind of taking a look at his particular filmography. You got things like Memento. I don't know if you've seen that one before, where it's a thriller that's told chronologically, like backwards almost. And
okay.
Inception, Interstellar, which we just bought that on DVD, but we've yet to watch it.
Interstellar?
And, yeah.
Oh, that's the one with
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. I have to tell you, there's somebody peeking in the door.
It's probably Piper.
Yeah, it's great. I'm sorry, tickled me.
It's okay.
I gotta say, Interstellar, not to me, it wasn't that great of a movie.
Really?
Yeah. I remember seeing it and thinking when I got to the end that this is it.
Really?
This is how I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was disappointed in it, but there again, there's a lot of movies that I like that you don't like. So
sure.
Maybe something you'll care for,
We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we're not talking here Interstellar, we're talking about Batman Begins. So
Right. And when we talked about doing this, and I had mentioned I didn't think you really cared that much for Christian Slater as the Batman in this one either, right?
Oh, I don't have an opinion about opinion of Christian Slater portraying Batman because I don't think he has. We're talking about Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. You're right. I'm sorry. I had a Pops moment there. Hey, what can I say?
But
yes. Thanks for bailing me out.
Yeah, you're welcome. But to answer your actual question, we'll probably get to this at some point, but I'm kind of conflicted about it because I do think that Christian Bale is a really good actor. He's very talented. And I think actually everybody who is casted here is extremely talented. But for some reason, to me, it falls a little flat. And part of it, I think, is just the context of when it came out. As a movie from the 2000s, there's a certain, I'm trying to think of the right word, artifice in Hollywood movies around that time that everything seems almost too perfect, and all of these actors look too perfect to me. It takes me way out of the film. So I think that's part of it.
There's a lot of big names, maybe not big names at the time.
No, they're pretty much at the time. So yeah, it's huge.
Yes. One interesting thing is, even the actor that played the homeless guy that he gave his jacket to.
Yes.
Even that guy is a big actor for,
really?
I can't remember if he's Ukrainian or Yugoslavian. He's, from that area, European, I guess we could say. But I had to look him up because your mother told me
Croatian.
that
he's Croatian.
Yeah.
Rade Zerbaja, maybe.
Yes.
I'm going to go with that pronunciation.
That works for me, but she thought he was the guy from the Dos Equis commercial.
Yeah.
And I said, no, he can't be, And so I had to look it up.
Yeah.
And his list of movies
Yeah.
is got like, almost 50 movies that he's been in,
Wow.
Even in a James Bond movie.
Really?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. As a matter of fact, plays a Russian general in one of them.
I have to look that
So
one up.
I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but I did see that.
Huh.
So Christopher Nolan directed this, and it was almost a non-happening thing after Batman Forever and the Batman and Robin movie that did so terrible.
Yeah.
It was an almost non-happening thing, and it for 2005, it if I'm not mistaken, it had like $150 million budget.
Yeah.
And did almost 400 million, 373. Not too bad. But I bet it could have done better. They had 3 different release dates.
Okay.
On this. It started off May 31st in Tokyo.
Okay.
Then June 15th in the US.
Yeah.
And then June 17th in the UK.
Okay.
So it's like, this should have been like a big production thing. Batman's coming back. It begins again.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think that the source material for this is really good too. Did you happen to check any of that out?
I mean, obviously they're doing an origin story, right? So, we talked about how we talked about Batman Year One. So obviously there are little
there
pieces
is some
there.
Of that in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what were you specifically talking about?
Well, there were 3 comics. There was Batman Year One.
Okay.
With Miller. And then in 1989, they had a comic called Secret Origins.
Okay.
The Man Who Falls.
Oh.
Which was which actually told the story of him at youth falling down a hole in the story.
Cool.
So that got us into that part of it.
Yeah.
Then it also told there was an 18 issue done by Loeb, and I think Stock was the pen on it. Batman: The Long Halloween.
Okay.
Which gave us Scarecrow and a couple of other villains.
Okay.
That we got in there. So
between
that and Year One and that.
Okay.
Because you could tell there's some Year One stuff in this movie.
Definitely. And it's funny you mentioned Scarecrow and whatnot, because we get introduced to some characters that we've never seen in film before from the Batman universe on the big screen. On the silver screen we have, but yeah, like you mentioned, the Scarecrow, he's actually extremely old as a villain. His first appearance was in 1941, September 3rd, in World's Finest Comics. So
really,
yeah, let me show you the comic because it's pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, you can see this is really funny. It's a combo book. It's got a Superman story and a Batman story, but they're all playing baseball here. I thought that was pretty cute. But yeah, if we scroll down to the Batman story, you can see the actual Scarecrow here. He looks kind of like a Scarecrow, and this is his alter ego Jonathan Crane. And in this one, he doesn't have a fear gas per se, but he's using fear to control to manipulate things, like he's evoking fear into a businessman using the Scarecrow persona to do that. So very faithful to the character in the film Batman Begins. And then we also have the appearance of Lucius Fox, who is portrayed by Morgan Freeman. He's appears in the late 70s here, and you could see he's actually right here, and it looks pretty close. Margaret Freeman looks pretty close to him, I think, with the white hair and the temples and everything.
Yes. I think they were pretty faithful to that.
Yeah.
We also got introduced to Falcone.
Yeah, well, actually, we already know Falcone from Batman Year One, so I didn't think to rehash that. But that's his first.
That's
appearance.
true.
So we did that, and then the big bad in this one, Ra's al Ghul, and he was here in Batman in I think the 71, yeah, in 232, issue 232.
Right, he's also a Arrow villain.
No, I didn't know that.
Yes. Well, in the Arrow TV series, he showed up, I think, season 3. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he's got a great origin story, although they don't get into it in this movie. It's been gone over, rehashed many times.
Yeah, and here you don't either. The story is that Robin's kidnapped, and it turns out that his daughter is also kidnapped, and so they go on this quest together to go find them. And one thing that I've noticed as reading through the Batman comics, most of these are crafted as mysteries, and so towards the end, Batman's got it all figured out that Ra's al Ghul actually wasn't a victim here. He was the one kind of orchestrating everything. It turns out at the very end, he kind of exposes that, hey, you kidnapped Robin. Your daughter's not really kidnapped. And they're like, yeah, that's right. It's because she wants to marry you. Right. And so it goes to the end here. That's the spoiler alert for issue 232. But, that's that. So I thought it was interesting.
It is actually very interesting because there is an animated version with Damian Robin.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is his actual son, right, from Ra's al Ghul's daughter.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, cool. Yeah, that's another thing we'll have to get into.
Yeah.
We also learned the name of the gentleman that killed Bruce's mother and father.
Oh, yeah. Joe Chill. Right?
Joe Chill, yes.
Yeah.
We got a quick look also at Victor Zazz, which we've talked about, I think, before.
Under more unfortunate circumstances.
Yes, most definitely.
But the big thing, though, about Ra's al Ghul is that he's actually was created by Denny O'Neil, who we talked about, and a couple other things. He had a very long, illustrious career with DC, but I mostly know him from his run in Iron Man back in the early 80s. So another iconic thing. So we get a lot of Obadiah Stane, all that stuff from the first Iron Man movie was from the Denny O'Neil run, which is cool.
Right. So he's somehow makes an appearance here too.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that this movie had a lot of interesting things in it to talk about. Yes. And I put it down. I put a little note here and said, lots of origins stories.
Sure. Yeah.
Because one thing I'm going to say about Christian Bale is that I think he portrayed a good Bruce Wayne.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I
had a problem with him as Batman, but I think he played a good Bruce Wayne. And I think that was one of the main origins, because we did the movie starts out when Bruce was a child.
Yes, that's right.
And so we did get the origin of him falling down the well.
Right.
And getting his fear of bats.
Yes.
And then, which I told your mom, we got some good quotes there too. We got a quote, "Why do we fall?"
Right.
So why do we fall?
To pick ourselves back up again.
All right. So we learn how to pick ourselves up.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, I'll write that down as a quote, because there are a few interesting quotes here that kind of lead the story along
Yeah.
in different ways.
Yeah. And to me, like, I think that I don't necessarily think that's true. In real life, I'm saying, yeah, like um we fall for a very different reason. It's to point out our need for a savior, right? I mean, that's really what it boils down
Yes.
to. So it's I don't know.
Well,
I think
that is the bottom line. That's the truth.
yeah. So I think that's
And the truth will set you free.
right. Yeah. So anyway.
Definitely. I mean, yes, that is our belief and our truth that we know. But I thought it was interesting. I had to bring it up because I thought it
No,
was that he
no,
came up with that.
it's extremely important to the message of the story, right? Because the idea is that it is sometimes it's part of it's a sub part of the American ideal that a lot of people think that it is, that you could just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and whatnot, and the reality is that you definitely do have a role to play. You have agency. You can definitely you have responsibility for things that you need to do, but at the same time the way you accomplish that is not in and of yourself. You do that by trusting in the God who made you in order for you to do the things that he has for you to do. That's obviously missing from this particular thing, but I think that ultimately that's what it boils down to.
True.
In real life.
I would agree with that. Like I said, so we actually start off with the story learning the origins of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. And I thought that this part was done really well, and it's told in a very unique way in that the details are a little bit different. We get introduced to a brand new character, not even in the comics originally, which is Rachel Dawes, the childhood friend of Bruce.
Correct. Yes.
Rachel Dawes, I don't remember.
Dawes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. I got it right the first time.
Yes.
Anyway, so we get introduced to that, and then instead of it being a movie that they're going to, they go to the opera, and Bruce gets scared because there's bats in it. And this is one thing that I thought was so well done in the film is Thomas Wayne, and as a father, he really gets it. He gets the father gig. Like they're the way he takes care of Bruce, as he's mending him, he's giving him, a lesson about, when you fall, you pick yourself back up. And, there's the little conversation that he has with Bruce on the train, talking about, Wayne Tower and everything, about how, they have, as they have a lot of resources, they have a responsibility for that. I thought that was really fascinating. And then the key moment is, Bruce gets scared at the opera because of the bats. They leave the opera, they go into the alley, and he
takes the blame.
He covers for Bruce. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, to me is so I don't know, so it's like he knows exactly what to say, and he does it for Bruce, not to patronize him or anything, but to provide some coverage for him, because he knows that he understands him. He knows exactly what to do to be a good father. And unfortunately, that's where it all ends for both Thomas and Martha. And and I think what we're seeing is Bruce's viewpoint through those little snippets, right? So maybe Thomas Wayne wasn't like the perfect father, but because of Bruce's memories as a child, it seems that way. That's what I think.
Well, yes, and I think that like molds his character.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
In the certain direction, he's moving towards a certain direction, but
yeah.
We also get to see where his growing, because he takes off, I think, for 14 years.
Yeah.
or something like that. He's
Something
gone.
Yeah.
And I know we don't flash there yet. I think we flash to beyond that, to the Asian years, right? And then we come
Well,
back.
that's how the movie. Yeah, so it starts there and then it goes back and then
So it kind of
it goes back.
starts to it's really the whole beginning of the movie is kind of the Bruce Wayne origin and how he becomes a man with a vision, the direction that he got from his father.
Yeah.
And then we see how he has a big chip on his shoulder and he's learned how to fight, and he has got this idea that he's going to stop criminals so nobody else gets hurt like his mother and father, you know.
Right.
And then we go from there, we go back to the younger period.
Yeah.
Because it's like the younger period is 14 years afterwards, and then he's gone another 7 years in Asia.
Yes.
And then he comes back again. So,
right.
That's a 21-year period.
Right.
And I'm not sure how old he was when that happened.
Yeah, I think the canonical age for Batman is like 35.
Right. So that's probably about right by the time we get to the point where we're back in Gotham for real.
Mm-hmm.
But that to me was the best part of the movie, was the different origins.
Yeah.
Because what I got down for origins, I got Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
Then we got the Batman origin, the costume origin.
Yes.
And the utilities, the weapons, the car.
Right.
All those little things, one at a time, how they developed, how that we got the Batcave origin.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
I loved it.
Oh, that was another great part. And we got what I would call this part, the tale of two cities. When when he comes back after the 14 years and he's decided that he's going to kill Joe Chill.
Yes.
And he drives with Rachel, somebody else, of course.
Yeah.
Kills him. One of Falcone's people, I guess we're going to say.
Yeah, it was.
Rachel takes him. We had this kind of bright city, Gotham City streets, and she like all of a sudden goes down this road.
Right.
And goes down, and all of a sudden it's all dark and dingy and slummy.
Yep.
And we see the side that his father was talking about earlier.
That's right.
Right. So now, Gotham isn't just, this nice, bright city with bad guys. It's two different cities, really,
Yeah.
Or two different areas. And growing up for me, I can remember going to New Orleans in the scene before the Superdome was even built, and going to areas. We went there for a drum and bugle corps contest, and we actually went in from areas that were real bright to areas just like that, that were real dark. We had to go through, and it's so that kind of like mirrors some cities today, big cities.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So we got that origin, and the Batcave was like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't know, can we really say we got a Lucius Fox origin, or?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's the first time we've ever seen him on screen. So, I mean, that's certainly something. And I like it because, you have, this is what I like about the Batman story, is that, we have the introduction of Thomas Wayne as his father. His father's taken away from him at a very early age. And then he has other men in his life that step up and that fill some of those father roles. And so obviously we have Alfred, which, you know, in this case portrayed by Michael Caine, very, very good job. And then we also have Lucius Fox. He kind of plays another role, you know, because I think of, you know, the father side of Alfred is, you know, the provider type of role, you know, where he's, you know, cooking for him and taking care of him and things like that. And Lucius is the equipping side. So, you know, the father will take you out hunting and give you, you know, guns and knives and stuff like that. You know, that's what Lucius's role is. And so I think
fabrics that will.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
I think that as a father, you should be doing both of those things, if not, you know, in addition to a couple other things. But I think that, you know, that just goes to show you that for orphans, there are other things that can help fill the gaps. And, you know, sometimes, you know, so I like that idea.
Yes. And we also, though, got a unorthodox figure as a father in Falcone. And wait till I explain that.
Please.
This is one of my second quotes that I came up with. When Rachel drops him off and tells him, hey, you want to thank somebody, Falcone's in there.
Right.
And he goes in there, he gets roughed up, and he says, hey, you want to kill me, or, you know, or you want to thank me? What? He shows him, the judge is in there. There's, you know, public officials, senators, and he points a gun at him and says, you know, if I want to, I could kill you right now and I'd have no repercussions.
Right.
And then he explains to him his quote, real power comes from being feared. So I think he directed him in a way that he could save his city, that he had to become a figure that was feared. And that's how he would get his power.
That is interesting. That's an interesting theory. I could see that. I mean, yeah, because, you know, as we'll get into the League of Shadows section of it, I mean, the reality is that Gotham's days are numbered. And, you know, maybe in Carmine's twisted mind, the way he can save the city is to have it under his control.
True. Very true. So, like I said, a kind of a twisted way of, you know, helping him and guiding him in a direction.
Yeah.
That he thinks he should be. I also wanted to let you know that the League of Shadows is also known as the League of Assassins.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the comics, it has been portrayed both ways.
Yeah.
And you can see they're ninjas. Ninjas are assassins, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And I was almost thinking that if Frank Miller had anything to do with the ninja part of it, just given his proclivities with other heroes.
Yeah. Well, I did, you know, Batman Year One was one of the comics that this was influenced by too. So,
yeah,
you know, and Nolan was one of the co-writers,
right,
with David Goyer too.
Right,
so.
Which, you know, he also did the Zack Snyder Superman and Batman. So
yes. So we had a good connection there too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so
maybe now's a good time for us to talk about Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows and all stuff like that, because I thought that was the most interesting part of this movie. That there's a group that is their only purpose, or their main purpose, is to provide a check to civilizations and corruption inside civilizations. I thought that was something that was very interesting.
Well, yes, and he had mentioned that it's been around for hundreds of years.
Right.
And, you know, you kind of got the feeling that the burning of Rome was done by the League of Shadows, you know, and
yeah,
they did the rats for the bubonic plague, and
Right.
how they have affected history all along.
Right.
And how we learned too from that it wasn't just a chance robbery with his mother and father.
Right. Yeah.
Although we didn't learn that till later, but to think that Raja Ghul, but at this time he's known as Henry Ducard.
Right. Yeah.
Although that's what he says that he is. And although when you looked at the comics, you saw that Liam Neeson definitely looks like Raja
Yeah.
Ghul,
Right. Yeah.
much more so than, oh God, what Wanatabi, I think his
Yeah.
name is, or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
He definitely doesn't look like Raja Ghul, but
Yeah.
uh, we got the impression that because his father was willing to help those in need and try to develop things,
Yeah.
that he said that Gotham was limping along. So
Right.
like I said, we learned later that they weren't pleased about that.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is interesting that as civilizations become more advanced, they're using more strategic methods of trying to take that civilization down. And so the idea was that they could use economics to take down Gotham. And so because of a billionaire philanthropist like Thomas Wayne, that was, like you said, hampering their plans. And so they had to get rid of him. So.
Right. And, that's what your mother and I kind of shared, that,
Yeah.
that there is a good chance if you have somebody that rich
Yeah.
that can influence society in a positive way,
Right.
that it could make a positive change in the direction of civilization. Whereas if it's a
Yeah.
greedier one,
Right.
it could be totally opposite that, right?
And to me, I think that's what makes it so powerful, and that's what made Thomas Wayne so dangerous. Because the reality is that what people will do to say, "Oh yeah, we can make it all better," is we'll use government force to take the billionaire's money and give it to the poor or whatever. And here we had a billionaire on his own saying, you know what, I don't need any government mandate to be generous. I'm just going to do that. And they saw that as too big of a threat for them. And that's why they had to kill him. And to me, that's what it says to us, that government's role in trying to fix those things, that actually might have served a League of Shadows, as opposed to, just having a person on his own saying, hey, I need to be generous because that's, what I'm called to do. Unfortunately, there wasn't a spiritual motivation that we see on film. But if I had to guess, the reason why he felt that way is because he felt that conviction,
Right. I would agree with that. Most
So
definitely.
anyway.
Real power comes from being feared. I'm just wondering if, since the economic thing didn't work,
Yeah.
if Raja Ghul didn't take that same advice, and that's why they weaponized
Yeah.
the hallucinogen, right? The blue flower, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, and to me, I think, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that is also a huge theme in this film about fear. I kind of have a little bit of a different opinion about it now. And it's funny because we were just talking about this in church just a few hours ago about, we're going through the book of Nehemiah, and the reality is that, like, Nehemiah, when, all of the guys, try to rise up against him and like say bad things about him and pretend they're going to go threaten, rat him out to the king, that he's going to rebel and everything like that. Every time you see that, Nehemiah doesn't respond, or responds in the right way, and does it's because he doesn't fear them, but he fears God. So fear is still the motivator, but it's fear placed in the right object. right? So when you fear God more than man, you're going to behave in a different way than putting your fear in men. So, I think, Falcone's idea is that you need to fear me, and that's how I'm going to get power. So if you fear me, but the reality is that you need to fear God more than you fear Falcone, and you'll be able to take him on at that point.
Right. And we later see that Batman puts the fear in Falcone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, quite right.
And later we even see that Scarecrow puts the fear in Falcone.
Yeah, he does indeed.
Yes. So I thought the way they set that up, it was just done so well.
Yeah, agreed.
Every time you got into a little bit more of the movie, again, like I said, he played a great Bruce Wayne, doing the part where he was the rich guy that flaunts his money around and hey, they're not supposed to be swimming there. Oh, that's okay. I'm just going to buy the place, and we'll change the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, he's doing that real well. But again, I just had so many problems. I love the Batman costume.
Oh yeah, it's really neat.
And I thought his utility belt was done really nice.
Yep.
It actually made sense, finding out all these little things, the material that Lucius gives him for the wings.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's so nice to see all those different things. The Batmobile, that was really something different.
Yeah. To me, it's definitely not necessarily my favorite look, but it does it's like it like you said, they have an in-story make sense of why it looks the way it looks, why it does the things that it does. And to me, that's I think that's more important, to make that believable, or plausible, that he could have that's how he would get something like that, as opposed to something a lot more cooler looking, like in the Burton films, but really has no real utility outside of just it being Tim Burton's wackiness.
True. And the original 66 version too. And the ones from the serial Batmans, there were two Batman serials in the 30s. Right. One just Batman and one called Batman and Robin.
Right.
And in the comics, the original comics, he just has like a regular sedan, a long sedan,
Yeah. Yes, he does.
And it's actually red in the original comics.
Yep. That's right.
I can't tell you what they were in the serial because the serial is black and white. But sure. Basically same kind of vehicle in the serials.
Right.
They didn't get fancy until they did the 60s version.
Gotcha.
Well, I take that back. Some of the animated ones from the animated series. Now that Batmobile was pretty cool looking.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I like that a lot too.
Yeah.
But in this case, like you said, everything kind of, there's an answer for why this is what it is.
Yeah, especially like the wings part, like you said. The fact is that he gets the wings. He's able to put electrical current through them. That's why he's able to glide like he does. And I thought that was that's never explained in any other piece of canon I saw. So it's like, that's really cool that they were able to do that. And how they had to order different parts of the suit from different companies in bulk from different ways to not arouse suspicion. That's the other thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, you always thought about, we're always delivering all these pieces of material to Bruce Wayne. I wonder what he's doing with all that. Now that you actually explained how they could keep it secret. So I thought that was cool.
Yes, and also the way that they found the entrance.
Yeah.
To the Batcave in the southwest wing or southeast wing.
Yeah.
I was like, very cool.
Yeah.
And how that they were planning to, after it burned down, which brings me to my next quote.
Okay.
And I have to tell you that after this quote, I unfortunately on my study went down a rabbit hole that I wasn't sure I was going to ever get out of.
Okay.
But my next quote comes from Alfred.
Okay.
What's the point of doing all those push-ups if you can't lift that beam off yourself? So
Yeah.
when I saw that, I all of a sudden saw a little thing on Google about doing 100 push-ups in 8 weeks,
Yeah.
and I immediately went to find out what that was all about.
Okay.
And I went totally down a rabbit hole in the wrong direction. I told your mom, I said, "What am I doing? I'm trying to, so it was, that was for me a interesting quote, because we did get that
Yeah.
portion when he, and I thought totally of Isaac when he did that, when he stood up and he
Yeah.
went forward.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh yeah, Isaac had to do that to get his orange belt, right? If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken,
Yeah.
right?
You're right. You're right.
And I said, oh, I totally can relate to that,
Yeah. Well, they did release a study recently that men who can do 40 push-ups have the lowest risk of heart disease. So just a heads up there.
Do you do 40?
I mean, not at once. I'm working up to that, but I haven't actually. Yeah. Anyway, that's another story.
Okay. Well, yes, we'll talk about that after we close out the episode.
Okay.
Because there is a website and I'll tell you about it.
Okay.
All right. But so he acts like a total jerk to get everybody out of the house when Raja Ghul comes to the house, and
right.
We get, it's a payback moment,
right,
from when he said that you burned down my house and left me for dead,
right.
so I'm going to do the same for you.
Yeah,
now we're even.
Yeah, so that is actually something I want to talk about. So that's good.
Good.
Because that echoes the flashback sequence with Joe Chill, in that when Bruce is in the car with Rachel, they're driving, and they have this conversation about justice versus revenge, and Bruce says, I wanted justice for Joe, and she's like, you're not talking about justice, you're talking about revenge. That fact that he wanted him to die, and to me, and that's what the League of Shadows, that's what their stated goal is to bring justice to civilizations that are corrupt or whatever. And so that's the idea.
Yes, by killing them.
Right. So my point is that justice, at least as defined by Scripture, we have a whole section of the Bible in the Old Testament that actually shows us what justice is, not only through the 10 Commandments, but also through case law in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. So we can know what God actually does think about justice and how to do justice. Even though those specific laws aren't applicable to us today, the general principles are, right? So my point being is that for justice to be done for things like that, it's not supposed to be in some cases it is supposed to be retribution for capital offenses like killing somebody. Obviously, when you take the life of somebody, you can't restore it. So the theme is restorative justice as opposed to retribution, right? So what should have happened in the case of Bruce, he did burn down Raja Ghul's house and everything like that. That was something that needed to be remedied. So what should have happened, what justice would have looked like, would be for Bruce Wayne to rebuild Raja Ghul's house and to recoup him any other opportunity costs that he missed out on. That's what justice would have been. What
restorative
happened,
justice,
exactly
what that would have been.
Right. That's what, so that's when it comes. So Raja Ghul, like you said, he was just getting revenge at that point, and that was not justice. That was just revenge. I think that's the key between those two things. So in the event that things can be restored, they should be restored. And if they can't be restored because it was a life issue, then your life becomes forfeit. That's how it should work.
Right. Well, what about so eye for an eye, right?
Well, eye for an eye is a really good example of it's actually a mercy type of thing, because it used to be that um, you gouge out my eye, I kill you, right? But it's equal, right? So the idea is that things need to be equal. So the punishment needs to fit the crime. You steal something, you don't cut off the person's hand. The person just pays back what they stole versus plus extra, because of the lost,
Right.
thing.
Yes.
So eye for an eye actually is a good thing. So anyway,
In this particular case, but it for him,
uh-huh.
for Raja Ghul, eye for an eye is twisted
Yeah.
In a whole different, in a vengeful way,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And not in a justification way.
Right. Yeah. And the point being, like, for instance, for the bigger picture for bringing Gotham down, you know, the question is, who puts them in charge of deciding when a society is too far gone and has to be destroyed? You know,
Right.
they shouldn't be making that judgment. That's God's judgment. And when he does that, he will use other means to make it happen. So for instance, when Israel rebels and they reject God and they start worshiping other gods, and God sends them into exile, he does use the other tribes or the Babylonians or the Assyrians or whoever at the time.
To
He will
do the justice.
he will. And at the same time, those groups are going to get their own judgment from God from doing that, which is really interesting. There's two levels of how God,
Correct. Yes.
two levels of God's judgment that's being carried out at the same time, which is really interesting. So anyway, could you make the case that God was using the League of Shadows to take down Rome or Paris or whoever? I don't know. But at the end of the day, if that was the case, then at some point the League of Shadows are going to have their own judgment. So maybe Batman was
Yes.
the judgment of League of Shadows. I don't know.
Well, that kind of brings me to my next quote.
Okay, great.
In Batman, they're on the monorail, I guess you'd call it, or the train system.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we haven't even talked about Sergeant Gordon.
No, we haven't talked about them or Scarecrow that much either.
No, we haven't, but we could get into it eventually.
Yeah.
But my thought is that this next quote is from Batman when Gordon blows up the monorail and Batman says, "I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either."
That's true.
And
Yep.
he takes off, and lets him plummet to his death.
Yeah, and to me, I think that actually is the most that's very faithful to the source material, because Batman does have this ethos about him, like he doesn't use guns. We saw him throw the gun away as Bruce Wayne, and that was definitely part of it. And he doesn't also do killing as well. But as he states in the movie, there is actually a moral difference between taking an action and killing somebody and abstaining from doing an action to prevent somebody's death. I think there's a distinction between the two.
Yes. And again, I thought that was that was the last quote that I chose to write down.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I thought that was really well done.
Yes. And so we didn't talk about Gary Oldman, right?
Right. Yeah. I think he's a great Jim Gordon.
Yes, he actually, I thought he portrayed the character very similar to the Batman Year One Gordon.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think he was pretty faithful to that. And also we got the bad cop in there.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yep.
That was very similar.
Yeah.
To that part of the story that they chose to use, that storyline from Miller's Year One.
Yep. Yeah, there was another scene where Batman is like trying to use the fire escape and he's falling over and everything like that. That was also from Year One as well. So
correct. Yes. In Year One, though, before he got the Batman costume, right? or no, he had the Batman costume.
He had part
too,
of the
I think.
Batman costume. I think he had part of it. I think he had the full
Yeah.
Batman costume, just like this movie, where he just has like the armor on and he has the ski mask on.
Right. Yes, because he was saying they got the bad batch of bat ears, and he was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
if you fall, don't fall on your head."
Right. Yeah.
Dirt. Yeah. So we got all right. So we talked a little bit about Gordon and his portrayal in this particular case. He gets the rank of lieutenant.
Right.
Eventually.
Yes. At the end.
Yes, and that's where we also get some of year one, partially.
Yeah, at the very end. Yeah.
Yes, where we're talking about the Joker.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yes, the only thing in the year one, Batman wasn't there at the time when he was talking about it, right?
Yeah, yeah, and we have the benefit of hindsight about the next movie, so I thought the fact is that they set it up perfectly.
Yes, no question about that.
Yeah.
And let's see, who else did we get in this one?
Well, let's talk a little bit about Jonathan Crane /
Okay, yes,
Scarecrow.
yes, Scarecrow. That's awesome.
Yeah, because again, we talked about he's we just get a little bit of really the rogues gallery introduction of Batman, because obviously at this point 75-80 years of Batman canon is established prior to this film just coming out. So you have Arkham Asylum is such like this key location in Gotham, and all of the bad guys end up there at some point, right?
Yeah, one time or another.
Right. And so having Jonathan Crane as a psychiatrist on staff at Arkham, doing this thing, I thought was a really cool thing. And the fact that he's working for Ra's al Ghul at the same time, and then the whole plot of him putting this chemical inside the water, which doesn't, it's inert, so it's like, what's going on? And then we don't find out that it wasn't because of the microwave emitter that gets stolen from Wayne Enterprises that's going to vaporize the water and put it in the air, and everybody's going to have the fear thing. And so I thought that was pretty cool as a plot device.
And he was the one that weaponized the blue flower.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he took the blue flower that we saw at the origin of Bruce Wayne, facing his fears. Like you said, he was able to take it and synthesize it in a way that would make it a lot more potent.
Right. And again, like you said, the way that story unfolded,
yeah,
with all these different things happening, we had no idea what that machine had to do with the plot of the movie. We just know it got stolen.
At the very end, yeah, that's when it became apparent, okay, this is what actually is going to happen. I thought that was really well done. And at that point, when Batman's fighting the people, then we've got another year one reference when he activated the sonic emitter in his shoe and the bats came, and
yes.
So I thought that was another cool thing that happened there.
Oh yes, very cool, and they did a wonderful job. One thing I want to say about this movie, it was almost 90% done with miniature effects and with traditional stunts.
Yeah, I noticed that
very little CG. Very little.
The explosion in at Ra's al Ghul's place in the mountains, when that went off, I was like, that's not CG. That can't be. And so it was miniature, so that makes sense.
Yes. Oh yeah. Which again goes to the talent of the director and the direction that he went into.
Sure.
With this. And I think I'm sure that CG at that time was pretty advanced, but the fact that he chose to do it, I think, like I said, traditional stunts and miniatures, I think that had a lot to do with the 150 million budget that they had.
Well, yeah, just to put it in context, this was in between Fantastic Four 1 and 2. So that's the level of CG that Marvel was doing at the time. So just food for thought there.
Yeah. Well, again, it was good for the time. Yeah. We'll see. But when you are talking about the Rogues Gallery, in Batman: The Long Halloween, that was done 13 or 16 issues. It was a story arc that took that long.
Wow.
It is actually going to come out in October in a graphic novel hardcover form. It is already in a paperback form, trade paperback.
That's like spanning almost a year and a half then, from a story
Correct. Arc. Yes. Wow. But it did cover a lot of the Rogues Gallery in there.
That's cool.
So I'm actually looking forward to it coming out in hardcover. I'm probably going to put it on my list, but we're going to see.
Okay.
Of course, Pops, he's going to look for the best price he can.
Right.
Somebody actually has it on eBay in the paperback tradition, and they want $169 for it. So that's not happening.
Yeah.
You could pick it up on Amazon for $20. So I don't know where this guy thinks he's getting $169 for it, but nonetheless, since that was started developing our Rogues Gallery, and that is traditional, that most of them go to Arkham.
Yep, that's right.
So I thought that was really, really interesting.
Yep.
The way that Scarecrow was the one in charge of that.
Yep.
Which in the Gotham series, it's somebody else that's in charge. It's another doctor, but he is experimenting on him, and Scarecrow is one of the patients in there. So
we were talking about that, and I was like, particularly like Ra's al Ghul, like I'm not really familiar with him as a villain at all, and so I asked Tracy if because she watched all of Gotham, and she said that he's in that. So I was like, man, I'm probably gonna actually end up having to watch that now. So
you would like him because Raj in Gotham.
Yeah, he's Alexander Smith from DS9. Yeah.
Yes, you like DS9, so I think you'll like his performance. He did a great job of Ra's al Ghul, I think.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, and which kind of at the same time, in the Arrowverse, there was also a Ra's al Ghul, but not this. They didn't use the same actor. Which Gotham is different from the Arrowverse, so I guess
right. Well, and I think it's been established, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's a parallel
universe,
right? Because the Flash from that finds the other Flash from the cinematic universe and whatnot, right?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so there you go. That's why they're different. So obviously, Gotham is yet another one of the multiverses that happened. So it's separate from Arrowverse. So
right. You'd almost need a program to keep everybody straight,
Yeah. Well, we got to. So anyway,
I did want to mention one other thing: the secretary for Wayne Industries.
Okay.
Yes. Mrs. Pierce in Black Lightning.
Oh, okay.
So another DC comic.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. We would be remiss if we didn't mention the subplot of what's his name? William Earl, the CEO of Wayne Enterprises. So when Thomas dies, the board of directors kind of takes over and says, look, we'll keep things running before Bruce is ready for him to come take the reins back for Wayne Enterprises. And so we get this whole subplot of Wayne Enterprises going public, and there's some things going in the background, and where at the end of the day, Bruce is able to regain control of it through buying
it up publicly.
Yeah. So it was an interesting thing that was a little extra there that you got. That was pretty neat. So
yeah, didn't you get the memo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool. That's cool.
So anything else you want to talk about? I know we really haven't talked a lot about the story plot. We mentioned few things here and there,
We've covered everything that happens in the story. We just didn't do it in a chronological order, which, to that was an homage to Christopher Nolan, how he tells stories.
Yes, it is.
In a chronological order. So I think we're good from a
story. And for our listeners, I'd say go watch it.
Watch it again.
If you haven't already watched it, watch it again.
Yeah.
Your mother had said she'd never seen it. And I owned it since,
That was the same thing Tracy said, is that, like, I don't remember anything that happened in this movie. And it's like, I get it. I think we talked about this before, that some of the movies that came out here in this time period I think there were so many other things going on that we forget sometimes some of the things that happen in them. But this film in particular is actually one of them, I think, that stands out as a movie that is aged very well. I think of Iron Man as the other one. The first Iron Man, that one also. I just bought it on Blu-ray, so I was watching the Blu-ray just to make sure it was the disc was okay, because I bought it at Second and Charles. And again, I was like, I forgot how great this movie is, and so I think it's the same thing with Batman Begins, that this movie is definitely a really good film, and it only gets better upon multiple watches. So
right. And sometimes I think that you have to watch, as I mentioned, watching the third Spider-Man with the Sandman, and watching it in IMAX, and then I missed so much that I had to watch it on DVD. And it's definitely not my favorite Spider-Man, but there are a lot of good things in it. Just like in this one, he's not my favorite Batman, but it is a really good story.
It is, yeah. I would say, because I think for me, each of these movies in the Nolan trilogy, there's something that happens in the movie that kind of takes me out of it, of the experience, that kind of seems out of place. And for me, in this film, the only thing that's out of place is the actors. They look too perfect. I don't know how to explain it. Like, they look too pretty, whether
yes,
Katie Holmes or Christian Bale, they just look too pretty. I don't know what it's weird. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. When he becomes Batman, I just look at him as, he just doesn't look like this big baddie that you should fear.
Well, I don't know.
Batman poses on the fear.
Yeah, I'm going to reserve judgment. I want to see Robert Pattinson's take on the Batman before I jump to that particular conclusion. But we'll see. We'll see, because Pattinson's not a big guy either. So I'm interested.
No, he's not. That's true.
So it'll be interesting. Obviously, we've talked about this before at length about how Batman, or the idea of Batman as a character, created by Bob Kane, Bill Finger, how it really is just the Shadow, right? That's the original kind of source material that they and you could see the Shadow as a character was not this big imposing figure either. He just kind of used shadows, I guess, as the name would imply, to strike fear into his opponents and whatnot.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do.
Okay.
When we'll have to watch one of the Shadow movies.
Okay.
I have the early ones, and I have some of the late ones. Maybe we'll watch the late one.
Yeah, there was one in the 90s, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. That
yes.
we should do that one eventually.
Yes. So, but we'll watch that so that you can actually know a little bit about the Shadow.
Right.
Because it was way before your times, even though there was a 90s one.
I'm
sure you weren't. Huh?
It was before your time too.
Well, yeah, but I did see some of them in the late 50s.
Because I remember when that came out and I was watching it. I remember Grandma Mary telling me, "Hey, that was from when I was a kid or whatever," you know. So I was like, "Oh,
Yes.
this is really old then."
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, I just got a new serial that I'm watching, Hop Harrigan,
Okay.
which was a comic. And at the time of that release, it was a comic strip in the papers. It was a comic book by DC, and it was a radio show Monday through Fridays on the radio.
Okay.
So you had this character, Hop Harrigan,
Yeah.
that not only was in the books, but also, and then they did a serial on it. So
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. All right. So if somebody asked you, hey, did you like that movie? How would you rate that movie, Ron? What would your answer be?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I would say for rating this numerically, I'd give it actually a 9. I thought this movie was extremely well done. Like I said, it's aged very well. The only thing that takes me out of it, like I said, is the actors. Not that they're miscast and not that they did a poor job. I think they did an excellent job. I think the casting was very well done. The only thing I said takes me out of it is that everybody's too pretty. And it kind of takes me out of it. That's it. And that is the only thing that I have to say about it. But as we get into further along into the trilogy, we'll kind of talk about some of the other things that take me out of it. But in this movie, that's the only thing to me
in this part of the trilogy.
Yeah. So that's it. So I think it's pretty much near perfection. It's a fantastic film.
Yes, it was done very well. I love the miniatures were excellent.
Yeah.
In this feature, and a lot of them you can't even tell that they're miniatures the way that it's been done.
Right.
And so I am going to agree with you on that, and I'm going to give it a 9.
Yeah.
You kind of talked me to move up. I was going to give it an 8, but
yeah,
you're right. There wasn't really too much wrong with that. For me, the only thing was his performance as Batman.
Yeah.
I thought he was a great Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
You know, pretty boy Bruce Wayne, he was perfect for that.
Right.
He wasn't too pretty for that.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. So are we going to continue with this or?
Yeah. We'll go through, finish out the trilogy and that's it. So any final thoughts?
If you'd like, before our next show, I would say watch the second one, which is called
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight, right?
Yep.
So it's not Batman is already started.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Better name.
Right. Good deal. All right. Well, thank you again for listening to Pop's Collection. We'll appreciate any feedback you got on Facebook, Twitter, and we'll see you next week with The Dark Knight. Goodbye. God bless.
Goodbye. God bless. Tell your friends.